One thing I didn't really think about is that it's raining and it's dark, but it's raining and I didn't bring a bag, so I'm gonna have to stuff this in my coat and hope for the best. It's safe in there now. Nothing suspicious here, just a book in my jacket. Wow. I'm back home. Do I look red? Because it was chilly? Guess where I had my book the whole time because it's raining outside, alright? Just guess. So I got the book. It's Sally Rooney, Beautiful World, Where Are You? I've heard her rave about this before. I've seen it online everywhere that she likes this book, so I'm gonna give it a go. I don't love Sally Rooney. To be fair, I've only read one book by her and it was Normal People, but I feel like everyone likes Normal People the best. So I don't have high hopes. And Normal People is also one of Taylor Swift's favorite books. So again, I really don't have high hopes. If you're wondering why I didn't love Normal People, it's mostly because nothing really happens. It's one of those like dramatic, character-driven, like kind of depressing scenario. Like, if I'm being honest, the two main characters love each other, but they both need to work through their own shit and they're going through very, very serious things of their own that they need to work on. And I think the book kind of like highlights this negativity about them in like a romanticized way that I don't love. So that's how I feel about Normal People. But I've heard this one's more uplifting version of Sally Rooney, so maybe you'll enjoy it a lot more. The library was nice. It was quiet. There weren't a lot of people there. It was actually kind of nice outside. The bus was chill, hardly anyone there. And yeah, all in all, an easy trip. So let's get to reading now. Richard. Richard. Hey pals. Okay, I'm back. And I finished Beautiful World, Where Are You by Sally Rooney, and it was, drum roll please, incredible. It was incredible and did not disappoint, and I can definitely see why this is one of Taylor Swift's favorite books, especially because it seems like she loves every Sally Rooney book. I've seen her talk about Normal People, I've seen her talk about Conversation with Friends, so I'm not surprised that this is also added to her list. It's about like these two girls and their friendships, and also these two guys that they're seeing, and just the miscommunication that comes with life. There's not a whole lot that like happens necessarily in this book, but also so much that does. How I would really like to describe this is essentially like Sally Rooney perfectly depicts the silence that happens within communication. So for instance, like that silence that happens when you are trying to understand your friend, but you can never really be in their shoes. She really shows that with Alice and Aline. Like they both are really trying to be there for each other, but also feeling the neglect from each other. And there's a bit of like silence in between their relationship of Alice trying to really connect with Aline, but feeling like Aline is never there for her or will never understand her situation. And then Aline like trying to hang on to this relationship she's felt that she's always had with Alice of being her like number one, but never feeling like Alice can express that to her. Aline is very someone who craves, if you're talking about like love languages, she really craves someone speaking to her, someone telling her affirmations. And so she's really hoping that her friend Alice and also her guy that she's like with, Simon, to really give her that, but they never will because it's not their personalities. So it's like this miscommunication of like wanting to show their love for each other, but both of their love language is basically just not connecting. And that's where like that silence of the communication happens. And it's so realistic. Like this is such a like a typical relationship you'll have in real life. And also the two main characters' relationships with the male partners as well is also the same way. Like they're just trying to really connect with each other. There's miscommunications that happen with life and the way that you try to connect. And Sally Rooney just really puts a very honest perspective on it. Like this is no joke how you probably would feel if you were them in this situation. I'm convinced that Dorothea is, the song by Taylor Swift, is based on this book. Like listen to these lyrics. Dorothea, do you ever stop and think about me? When we were younger, down in the park, honey make a lark of a misery. You got shiny friends since you left town. A teeny screen, the only place I see you now. And I got nothing but well wishes for ya. It basically reminds me so much of this relationship in the novel between Alice and Aline. Like Alice and Aline are disconnected and Aline completely feels like Alice has a better life now that she's left and thought it was temporary that Alice was leaving, but now Alice is like, I'm buying a house here and I have friends here, a guy here, and Aline is feeling really like missed out. And she's like, do you even remember like us growing up together? Like I feel like you haven't even connected with me. I feel like you haven't even visited me. And just that like silent communication there, it's like so spot on. Another part in here where it's saying, but I'm never too late to come back to my side. The stars in your eyes shine brighter into below. Like again, like saying like it's brighter back home. Like why are you staying here? Like come back. Oh my gosh, it's like so similar and I am convinced. Please leave a comment down below. Are you convinced? Like, does this make sense? Please go listen to that song and let me know because I'm honestly, I didn't even listen to this song before I read this book, but now that I've read this book, I am convinced it is based off of this book. I don't know, it just sounds really similar. It's giving the same vibe. What else can I really say about it? It makes me, I feel like I said this earlier in the video, but Sally Rooney's writing makes me feel like I'm thrown back into high school in the sense that her characters are always so driven by self-discovery. Like her characters are always going through like self-discovery, self-understanding, like total internal dialogue constantly. And I feel like for some reason that just reminds me of high school, because like in high school you're trying to figure yourself out more so than when you're an adult. And because I feel like once you get to 25 you're like, I am what I am, you know what I mean? But her characters are always like trying to understand themselves while also trying to understand the people around them, and those can be two tricky things to like completely balance. Like when you're trying to understand yourself, how can you fully understand where someone else is coming from? So that's why like Sally Rooney is so perfectly depicts this like miscommunication between characters that is so realistic, as well as someone trying to really understand their own purpose or value. and going through self-dialogue. She just does such an amazing job that really does throw me back to high school. So yes, this book was very well done and I enjoyed it a lot. Some red flags I will have about the story, or Sally Rooney in general, is I feel that sometimes she can like highlight negativity in almost a positive way. Or for instance, in this story specifically, the two girls' relationships with the male partners, in some cases I don't feel are healthy. And she almost puts like a beautiful spin on it, where these two girls are really relying on these males and really relying on their opinions of them. And in some cases, like Simon and Aline, there's also like an age gap and a little bit of like a weird power dynamic there. And it's really hard to understand if it's like healthy or if she's just putting like a beautiful light on like an unhealthy situation. Just because you're like having all the silence of the internal dialogue, you can't really see the lens of what the relationship actually looks like. So I just have a hard time sometimes with Sally Rooney's writing, because I feel that she's sometimes putting this like beautiful light on maybe not a beautiful situation. Just note that like Sally Rooney's books are always very deep, and I'm not sure she always paints the picture in a very compassionate way that I would hope she would, with like huge topics like age gap romances or depression or being hospitalized for depression or medication for depression, all topics that are talked about in this book. And I'm not necessarily sure that she paints it in a very compassionate way that she could. And you know, those topics don't always need to be thrown into a compassionate, like full story perspective for everyone. Sometimes you just need to say the brutal feeling of like what it feels like to be in those situations. And that's kind of what she does. She just says straight how it is. This is what's happening. This is the miscommunication happening. This is the silent conversations that are going on. And you won't really understand how you feel about these characters or how you feel about their relationships. But that's the whole point. Like, you finish the book not really sure how you feel about any of the characters or how you even feel about how they resolve these conflicts throughout the novel. So for some, it is extremely realistic and people can relate really well to that. But for others, I feel like if I was going through those situations in my life, this would maybe put me in a deeper spin. Does that make sense? Like, if I was feeling pretty low mentally, I wouldn't want to pick up one of her books, because I feel like it would make me feel deeper into that situation. I just want to give that warning because that's just my own opinion, and I don't think it would help me in that state. But you know, some people for sure, maybe it does. But that's just my opinion, and that's how I feel about Sally Rooney's writing. So I think in the past, when I read like normal people's, I didn't feel like I was in a good state to read it, which is why I didn't love it. But this one, I feel like I've been very neutral, so like this feels really impactful. Wow, I have a lot of thoughts, clearly. But anyways, to sum this whole video up, I really love Taylor Swift's taste, and I can see why she likes this, and I'm excited to like read more books that she enjoys. She has quite a dark list, let me tell you. Or not dark, but just like super purposeful driven, character driven books, which typically like go deep into intrinsic dialogue that can sometimes cut pretty deep with emotions. So I would say her books are very like emotion driven. But it was a good one, and I'm glad that I picked it up. I'm glad that I gave it a go. And I'm glad that I have a new perspective on Sally Rooney, because this book is highly rated for me. So I will actually be reading her next book that she releases. And I will see you guys on the next video. Bye!